U.S. Transportation Secretary Pete Buttigieg even stopped by the site last week to discuss the future of EVs in the U.S. and the role Washington is playing to get us there. The secretary's visit was part of a tour of projects and events across the metro. I spoke with him one-on-one about the opportunities and challenges facing cities, towns, and travelers in Kansas and Missouri. Mr. Secretary, here at DeSoto, looking out at this, where just a couple of years from now, EV batteries are going to be rolling off the line. How do we get to that point where electric vehicles are the viable option, especially when you have more rural states like Kansas and Missouri?
Well, I actually think rural states are some of the best places for EVs for a couple of reasons. One, people tend to have longer drives, which means you're spending more money on gas or diesel, which means you will save more by filling up on electrons instead of gas or diesel. But secondly, more people in rural areas tend to live in single-family homes, which means it's easier to charge up. Now, we're still doing our part, which is to make sure for those longer road trips, we're getting more of the chargers out there, and we're pushing through things like the Inflation Reduction Act to lower the cost of EVs in the first place, so that people who want an EV can afford to get one. But the other thing that's really exciting to see here is the good-paying American jobs coming right here to DeSoto that are going to be going into EVs that could be sold around the country or even all over the world. It's time for us to continue importing jobs and exporting products instead of the other way around. That's been the president's focus. That's our focus. And you see what that looks like right here in this field in Kansas.
Hard to keep all those products coming from within the U.S., though, I imagine. That's the battle.
Yeah, part of our focus is to make sure that America has the edge. Look, we don't want to be relying on other countries for our supply chains and for auto manufacturing. We want to be creating those materials and creating those jobs right here at home. That's what our policies have been all about. That's why we pushed so hard on getting this legislation done. And now we're seeing the results as company after company after company from around the world says, actually, we're going to choose to manufacture in the U.S. now.
Let's talk a little bit about air travel. This is a busy trip for you. You're at KCI for the ribbon cutting. Yeah. Air travel's been top of mind, especially this winter with ground stop and many issues and delays. I know that the DOT has been working to try to inform travelers and protect them a little bit more. What's going on behind the scenes, and is the work done yet?
So there's more work to do. There are two big things we're pushing on. One is the airlines, getting them to step up, getting agreements and requirements so that they treat passengers better. We've made a lot of gains. There's more work to be done. The other half is the infrastructure. That's why I was so excited to be there cutting the ribbon at KCI. And just today we're announcing 99 more locations around the country that are getting funding through our infrastructure law to make sure that they can improve their airport terminals. Everything from some of the biggest airports in the country to places like Dodge City and places not far from here that are more rural. Airports of every size that are going to get that investment, because that's part of how we make sure that people have a better experience as passengers.
You were just recently in East Palestine, Ohio, which had just an awful train derailment. We feel for the people there. Missouri and Kansas are no stranger to accidents on the rails. We just had a deadly Amtrak derailment in Mendon, Missouri last year. Thousands and thousands of rail miles are running through both of our states. What's being done to protect the people on the rails, to protect the rails themselves, to protect the people who live around them?
Well, I was just in East Palestine visiting with people who had their lives upended through no fault of their own, and it has really reinforced my commitment to make sure we protect communities that are close to rail lines, which is a lot of us, especially in the middle of the country. What can we actually do about that? Well, it starts with holding railroad companies accountable for how they treat those communities and raising the bar on standards around safety. The truth is the industry has fought really tooth and nail against us as we've tried to implement more stringent practices and rules. But we're going to keep pushing on that. And I think one way that some good might come out of this terrible situation in Ohio is more national attention on why we need to raise the bar, why we need to push harder, so fewer communities go through that kind of upheaval and pain.
Does that include more funding for rail crossings too? Because many of them are outdated, especially in our two states.
That's right. As a matter of fact, we're investing in improvements in rail crossings and even eliminating rail crossings. Especially in a rural area where you don't have a lot of options to go around, you get a 2-mile-long train in your way, it can really be a huge disruption, not just for people going about their days, but for emergency response too. It's why we're putting more dollars into railroad crossing elimination, and that's one more example of something coming out of the president's bipartisan infrastructure package that we're really proud of.
Secretary Pete Buttigieg, thanks for your time.
Same here. Good being with you.